Laurel Staples on Red Podcast.
Laurel Staples is back. How do you get your work done when there are people around you all the time, especially in the same house? That's what this episode is about. That's coming up.
This is the Red Podcast. How to take your idea and make a name for yourself within your industry and beyond. Spread your message. Attract a following. Rise above the noise. Here's your host, David Hooper.
Laurel Staples is back in the Red Room. Laurel, nice of you to join us here today.
Thanks for having me, David. I had to come upstairs, all the way upstairs, just to do this. So it took a lot of effort, and I'm happy to be here.
Pulled you away from your office.
That's true.
So this is a special anniversary episode.
It was our 1-year wedding anniversary.
We just celebrated.
We just did. What did we do?
We go-karted.
We go-karted. We did indoor go-karting. Those go-karts went up to 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, and that was a fluke, by the way, just so nobody thinks that I'm the king of romance by taking you to the go-kart track.
Oh, you are the king of romance. Yes, because we did that, and we also did something very romantic known as blacklight mini golf. Very romantic.
That's because we were at the go-kart
low.
place, right? While you're there, you got to take advantage of it.
Had to do everything.
Yeah, well, that shows what happens when you're open for adventure. We had another thing planned, couldn't get parking, and on the way home, just happened to pass indoor go-karting.
Had to do it. We didn't get to play air hockey, but maybe next year.
There was no air hockey there.
Yes, there was.
Oh, well, if I'd known, we would have played. This is the Red Podcast, the podcast for influencers. If you're a blogger, podcaster, speaker, marketer, nonfiction author, this is the podcast for you. The focus, how to take your idea, make a name for yourself, and make money. And Laurel Staples is back. You did the first 150 episodes with me, but you've gone off to bigger and better things.
Well, my own things. I don't know if they're bigger or better. Still love the podcast. Still a big fan, David Hooper.
The reason I wanted you back in here is a couple of days ago, you and I were out in the front yard taking the dog out, and a neighbor, it's brand new to our street, just dropped in to say hello. We were introducing ourselves. He was very surprised that we both worked from home and asked the question, how do we do it? I think that was the question. Something similar to that.
It went something like, my wife and I would drive each other crazy. I don't know how you guys do that.
So the situation is that Laurel and I do live together and work together from home. We don't work together on the same projects, but we both work from home.
We were both trying to get our own separate work done in the same home environment, and it's tricky sometimes.
So I dragged Laurel away from her office in the home. And the subject of this podcast, how to get the most work done when you're around other people. If you've got kids, if you've got a spouse in the house, if you've got other family in the house, you feel that you're not getting your work done, we're going to talk about the things that we've learned in our first year of marriage. Although I guess we were living together a year before we got married.
It's true.
I'm still calling this the anniversary episode, though.
I think that's good.
All right.
Well, and it could be, too, if you're in a co-working space or if you're in some other office environment where there are people around you. Maybe you're not like us and you don't work from home, but you're somewhere else. There are people trying to bug you all the time and take your attention away. How do you get stuff done?
Let's take it back before we were in this situation. I know for me, one time I went so far as to get an entirely separate office. Just couldn't work with other people. I wasn't good at it.
So you had an office full of your employees, and then you got a separate office just for yourself?
Just for me.
Wow.
Turned the phone off, didn't let them know where it was.
Why didn't you just work from home?
I probably did that as well. I was working all the time back then.
Okay.
But how were you with working with people? Because we do it fairly well, I think.
We do. We do it well because we're good at communicating what we need. But I don't know if I work well with others. I was that girl that always had a single dorm in college, never wanted a roommate and didn't want to be around people. But when I do have to do some of the things that we're going to be talking about today to make it work for me.
I was that same guy as well. No roommate since college. Never thought I would actually live with anybody. My plan was to get a separate house for my wife, maybe next door, or maybe like my office down the street. But here we are.
I know, we kind of talked about that in the beginning. Like, what if we had two separate houses? Or we could buy one of those, like, duplexes.
Yeah,
and,
well,
like,
we're thinking about it now.
you live in one half and I live in the other half, because we like being together, but we also like getting work done because we love to work. So you got to find that balance there. But we do live together now. But you have the upstairs. That's kind of your space. And I have the downstairs, and that's more my space. So that does tend to work out.
And when we bought this house, we were thinking about that. We were thinking about setting ourselves up to win. I didn't want a room next to you. We wanted an entire separate section of the house. We even looked at different houses that had different buildings in them.
Yeah, like a room above the garage and things like that. That can be very effective.
So here are the lessons that we've learned from 1 year of marriage, because we know a lot about marriage now after being married for 1 year.
That's our joke to our friends who have all been married like at least 7 years. We're like, we know a little something about marriage.
1 year of marriage and working together with a spouse. But these lessons are going to apply to you if you're working with a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids in the home. If you want to get more done and you're living with other people, this is how to do it. The first thing to do, make sure you get the support that you need to get the job done. And for us, that was having different parts of the house to work in.
That was something that we planned for when we were home shopping, is to have a house where we could segment our areas and have our own spaces to do that. And I think you have to figure out what's important to you. What exactly do you need to get the job done? And for us, both being introverts and both needing time alone, that was what worked out for us.
At a very minimum, I feel that it takes a dedicated space to get your work done. We have talked about that here on the podcast before, that people who get work done, you have a dedicated space for that. Songwriters I know, they've got their writer's rooms. If you're a seamstress, you've got a sewing room. If you're an artist, you're a painter, you've got a painting room.
David, you and I have been watching a couple shows on HGTV on Netflix, and they went in this one house, and the dad in this family had his office set up in the back of a walk-in closet. So literally he's like surrounded by clothes that are touching him on all sides, and he's in this hot little closet in the back trying to do work. That was crazy.
And the irony is, the Red Room is a closet.
But there are no clothes in
here. There are
here.
no clothes here. It's dedicated
it's a dedicated
to
space.
Podcasting.
Exactly.
So you got to have a dedicated space. Setting yourself up to win. If you've got a kid, you don't need to be watching the kid while you're working. That's not being respectful to your work. It's not being respectful to your kids. So setting yourself up to win may be bringing in a nanny. It may be handing the kid duties over to your spouse.
Or to daycare.
Daycare. Getting the kid out of there entirely.
Or whether you have children or not, you might need to get a personal assistant or a business assistant, somebody to handle some of the minor things while you work on the major things. So that's really about getting the support you need that can help you get the things done that you need to do, the most important work, and have other people or something else handle the other stuff for you.
Another big lesson, don't escalate. You see this all the time with couples that fight. It starts out as something small. Then the next thing you know, somebody's bringing up something from the past. It gets to be emotional where it shouldn't be. But in general, escalating is when you've got a problem right now not handling it. So, for example, you've got the kid running around and the caretaker for the child is not doing his or her job. You need to handle that now rather than let that fester or be something that's keeping you from doing your work. Handle it now so it doesn't get blown out way out of proportion. This happens all the time with employees. You've got somebody that'll agitate you or they're not doing their job correctly, and you've got to go back and maybe do their job for them. Rather than doing that and letting that fester and getting agitated, letting it keep you from doing your job and then being mad about it, go ahead and handle it right there. You see this all the time with partnerships.
When you let something escalate, the problem is it takes a lot of your mental energy. And when all your mental energy is going in towards a problem, you're not able to get work done. You're not able to focus on what you're actually trying to do. So if, like you said, David, you just handle it, get it taken care of, which is easier said than done a lot of times because I've been in a situation where employees aren't doing what they're supposed to do. You really need to handle it just right away. Don't dwell on it. Don't put all that mental energy into it, and just keep working on what you're supposed to be doing.
Respect boundaries. That's been a big lesson for us. And I don't think that either one of us got into working together at home trying to disrespect other people. I think it's that good Southern gentleman thing, for me at least, where when I see you, I want to say hello.
That's
hey,
so
Laurel,
nice.
how you doing?
We do like to check in with each other during the day when we pass by each other. When you come down into the kitchen, and my office is right at the bottom of the stairs, so we pass each other a lot. And we had to enact something that we call the Bandana Code.
But it's not like the Bandana Code that Al Pacino had in the movie Cruisin'. It's a different Bandana Code.
Okay, I don't know about that one.
You don't want to know about it.
Okay, we don't have that one. Is there a better name for it that we could give it?
Probably, but it's on tape. It's too late now.
It's too late.
Basically what this is let's call it a cone of silence. So when Laurel does not want me to talk to her, she more or less puts a sign on the door that says, don't say hello. Don't tell me anything except the building is on fire and I need to get out of here.
Pretty much. But these signs are actually our dog's different colored bandanas.
Yeah, and that's why we call it the Bandana Code. Our dog likes to wear bandanas.
Yep, and I have a red one and you have an orange one.
Right, for Halloween.
You should
It's
actually
his
have
Halloween
a red
bandana.
one. Yes, he has his Halloween bandana. And we've stolen it. We've stolen these bandanas from our dog so that we can use them in a cone of silence so that we don't talk to each other. But really, it's just me telling David that I'm in the zone. Usually it's when I'm writing, I'm doing a blog post, I'm doing something that takes concentration. I'll put my bandana, I'll hang it on my door, and he'll do the same. You'll do the same, David. And it's just us saying, look, I'm in the zone right now. I'll catch up with you later. And that's been very effective for us because otherwise, not only do we just check in to say hello, but I'll have a question to ask you. You'll have a question to ask me. We'll try to coordinate about dinner. We'll try to coordinate about taking the dog out. There are all these things that we're trying to catch up with each other about during the day. And it can interrupt you. When you're in the zone and someone asks you, okay, what are we doing for dinner tonight? That completely interrupts what you're doing. And it takes, I've read like at least 15, 20, 30 minutes to get back into the zone. So the Bandana Code keeps us in the zone.
It minimizes interruptions. Something else that minimizes interruptions, and we've known this beforehand, but working together in the same household, it's even more important. And that is that you treat your work like a job. You set office hours. And office hours, I use that word loosely because I don't really have strict office hours. It's not like I'm working 9 to 5, but we do that with help of the bandana. And that's also for other people too, outside of your house. You let them know that you have office hours. You're not available to pick up the kids. You're not available for doctor's appointments. Your parents calling you to take him to the airport. Not available for that.
Yeah, my dad does this a lot. I don't think he really realizes that I do work because I don't go to an office. I don't go to a regular job-like environment. So he'll call me during the day and I don't have my ringer on because I'm working. I'm in the zone. My bandana is up. I'm working and he'll call me. And then when I finally call him back a couple hours later, he'll be like, "Why didn't you pick up the phone? Why didn't you call me?" And I'm like, "Dad, I have to explain to him, like, I have a job. I know it's not like a regular job, but I do work." And he says, "I know you work, but you need to pick up the phone." But when you start setting these boundaries with yourself and with other people, you let them know what to expect from you. If I was going to a 9 to 5 job and my father called me, he would not expect me to pick up the phone at his convenience. He would expect me to do just what I did, is call him back at my convenience. So it just goes that you do have to set those boundaries and treat your business like it's a job, and then other people will start respecting it like it is.
I wrote down on my list, do the most important work first thing. And that's something that I've really learned from you because you're up at the crack of dawn right in there. Like if you're working on a book, a blog post, podcast, any kind of recording or training, you're doing it. And sometimes you're even done before lunch. That's how good you are about accomplishing that.
I do like to do the most important work first because I find that usually for people, myself included, the beginning of the day is the time you have the most control over. I say this with exercise too. If you can get exercise in the beginning of the day, you're more likely to do it. Or if you do it first thing, you're more likely to do it.
That has to do with willpower. because you have more willpower at the beginning of the day than the end, you're going against that lack of willpower later in the day.
And you knock it out. And it could be a willpower thing, but also I see it as a lot of times you don't have control over the latter half of your day. Things start coming up. You start getting emails. Somebody calls you to go pick up the kids or grab dinner or something like that. And things just get away from you. And if you can get the most important things done in the first part of the day, and then in the latter part of the day, you're doing things that are kind of next on your list, but maybe not top priority. If those things get away from you at the end of the day, not the biggest deal because you've done the most important things. And that's really worked for me in the long run. I've been doing that for years, and it makes me able to knock things off my list pretty quickly.
That's one of the things about living with somebody that I've found to be more important than when I was living by myself. I would oftentimes put stuff off till the end of the day because it was my schedule and I didn't necessarily have the other opportunities because my phone was off, because I'd set myself up to win like that. But with somebody in the house, like sometimes you're going to something cool. You say, hey, David, you want to go to this thing that's really cool tonight? And I haven't written, or I haven't done my podcast, or I haven't done what's important to me. That's when I've got to say no to you, or skip the work and put it off until the next day. And if you do that too often, your work doesn't get done.
Yeah, your work doesn't get done. And then you have to choose, like, do I want to enjoy my life or do I want to do my work? And you want to do both. And I think we all deserve to have both. So when you knock things out in the beginning of the day, it gives you more flexibility to do other work at the end of the day, do things you like, connect with your friends or family, do all that because you have actually accomplished what you want to accomplish. And you actually feel better. Like if I can get my most important stuff done by noon, I'm feeling pretty good after that. And if I want to go out with friends or if I want to kick back for the evening, I'm feeling like, okay, I deserve this. I did something to deserve it.
Something that I do well is that I give myself time to think, give myself mental space. And strangely enough, while you're working in the morning, a lot of times I'm out giving myself that mental space. I feel that's very important when you're setting yourself up to win, when you're working with other people especially, because you're around people so often. And you mentioned it earlier, we're both introverts. So it's good for us to get away from each other. Not that we don't like each other, but we don't want to be around anybody, even the people we do like.
Oh, yeah. Well, being alone allows us to regather our energy. And I think something that I'm not as good at is I'm good at getting my work done, checking things off the list. I'm good at exercising, but I'm not really good at giving myself that mental space. I like to be doing something all the time, whether I'm doing those things or whether I'm cooking or cleaning. I'm always doing. And I feel like if you're always doing, you're going to end up kind of spinning your wheels and not being 100% efficient when you're trying to get work done. So I agree with you, David. It's like giving yourself that mental space to get more done. And you feel like you might be doing less, you might be not as effective, but it's actually allowing you to do more.
Finally, if something's not working, change it. You and I did that with Red Podcast. You did 150 episodes with me over 1 year, broadcasting 3 times per week.
Yep.
But it wasn't as smooth as we wanted it to be, and you had other projects that it was taking you away from.
Yes, I had other things that I wanted to accomplish that I knew were going to take 100% of my energy and time, which was the Pro Coach Academy, which was something I started a couple months ago now, and I've been doing since then. And it was something that Red was fantastic. I still like coming in here with you, David. I still like doing this, but I had to look at, okay, what's working for me and what do I really want to pursue? And I had to make a hard choice. So it wasn't that this wasn't working. It was just that I felt pulled to do something else.
And that's cool, right?
You know, we didn't have a breakup or anything like that. It didn't go poorly. We just communicated about it a lot and figured out where we both want to be in our businesses and where we want to go. And everything kind of works out.
That's something that we do about twice a year. We take what I call a planning vacation. So we'll take 4 or 5 days off, go up to the mountains, and have nothing more on the agenda other than planning. Figuring out what we want our lives to look like, what we want our businesses to look like, because that changes. What I wanted 5 years ago, not what I want now. What I wanted 10 years ago, not what I want now.
It's like a check-in to say, what do we want to create? What do we want to create in the next year, in the next 6 months, and the next month? And it gives us a good opportunity, if something isn't working, to change it. And we've tried a lot of different things to work together in this house. We've tried things and they haven't worked, and we've changed them and we've changed those things, and we're still evolving, and we're still trying to have that open line of communication to make it the best environment for both of us to do the best work that we can do to fulfill our passion and to help people. And it's a constant conversation, and it's something that it does require communication to figure out when you have other people around you, but you have to start somewhere.
That goes back to what I was talking about. If there's a problem, you change it. We don't wait for the next planning vacation to change something. We do stick things out, but if we get home from the vacation, the new plan's not working, we can flip that, and we can do that almost instantly, as long as it takes for me to bring it up to you or you to bring it up to me.
Exactly.
Overall, if you had one piece of advice for a couple that is considering working together, what would that be?
Don't throw each other under the bus with last-minute questions.
Yeah, I'm like who are you? Like Sarah Palin? Yeah, your gotcha journalist.
I find something that's helpful for me that we didn't hit on today is knowing your energy cycle. Is we all have different energy cycles during the day. For instance, some people eat lunch and then right afterwards they kind of have an energy slump, or maybe they have that 4 p.m. energy slump. And in a job environment, you generally, because you're being paid by the hour, you try to push through those times and still keep doing work at those times. And what I find that's helpful if you work for yourself is to understand when those times are for you. When do you feel really energized? When do you feel really creative? And when do you not? And then plan your schedule around those times. So for instance, if you are really great with your energy in the morning, and that's a good working time for you, get most of your important work done, as we talked about in the morning. And then say you're not so good after lunch. Maybe there's like a 2 to 3 hour period where you're just not feeling creative. Well, take a walk, go to the gym, plan your exercise then, and then come back and do work in the evening. Because when you do work for yourself, you can create whatever you want to create. You can create any schedule that you want to create. And so I say pay attention to your energy levels and your energy cycles and plan accordingly. And that helps you get the most amount of work done without beating yourself up and trying to push through those energy slumps with lots of caffeine or whatever it takes to do that. That's just not going to be very effective.
If you've got questions or comments, reach out at The Red Podcast on Twitter. You can get me at David Hooper. And Laurel Staples is at Laurel Staples. When are you coming back, Laurel? It's been months.
I'll be back. Now that the Pro Coach Academy is wrapping up at the end of this month, I'm going to have a little bit more time before the next one gets started. So I'll be back up in the Red Room hanging out with you.
On the next episode, I've got marketing stories for you, including that one time when I was marketing and almost got arrested for it. That's on the next episode of Red Podcast. Go to redpodcast.com for more information on that and to subscribe. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.
But a lot of times people call her Lauren or Laura, and that just doesn't fly. That is just not cool. We just got to keep confirming Laurel Staples Hooper Stupor Stuples.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
All right. Bringing in a nanny so you're able to get your work done, or at least letting your wife. Man, that sounds so sexist. You're giving me a really mean look right now.
I think we need to redo that. Kind of sexist.
Sexist. All right. Am I losing you here?
No, I'm with you.
Okay.
But that's not the point.
This happens all the time with partnerships with employees. Are you laughing?
Or if you're a rich woman, you have a wrapping paper room. Because you got to have that. Okay. No? Okay.
I don't even know what that means.
Some people have, like, wrapping paper rooms.
Wrapping paper rooms.
Like, where they just wrap, it's just...
They wrap gifts to each other?
Yeah, it's just wrapping paper and ribbon. And
Yeah, Santa Claus has that. Mrs. Claus might have that.